Welcome to the roleplay breakdown on a BizOp offer, okay? So I want to make a few key notes before we dive in. First of all, I'm going to be breaking down a mock call I did with one of our closers on my personal team on a BizOp offer, and it's also going to be doing goals for syntax, okay? So I'm going to be breaking down what I'm doing as I'm doing it, etc., okay? Few key notes before we dive in here. First of all, this is a brand new offer. And when I say a brand new offer, quite literally, I wrote the pitch directly before doing this roleplay call and then did the roleplay call. So, I mean, this would be my first time. This is my first time ever pitching this thing. So, and obviously my first time running a call for this type of offer, even though it's a mock call. So it's not a bad call by any means, but at the same time, over the process of 20, 25, 30 calls, this would start to feel much more dialed in, okay? So there is a little bit of rust in some errors here. Again, it is goals for syntax is what I'm going to be using here, and I'm also going to be using the pitch codex. And then I kind of alluded to this just now, but there is multiple errors in this. Part of that is because it was literally brand new, wrote it right before this call. It does take time and just a little bit of repetitions, you know, two weeks on a brand new offer, brand new pitch just to dial it in. And then on top of that, one thing I noticed in hindsight of doing this is obviously when I'm doing this mock call, I'm not doing it to close the prospect here. I mean, this is a fake call, right? I'm doing it to show you guys and demonstrate for you guys what the process sounds like in action. And it's funny, part of the errors, I'm gonna call out on this roleplay breakdown where I screw up here because I didn't do everything perfect. It's, again, by no means a bad call, but I definitely didn't do everything perfect. And one of the biggest errors I made was because I was trying to demonstrate what the process looks like to you guys, I followed it too strictly, okay? I followed it far too strictly. And because of that, there's times, and you're gonna see me rip myself apart, where I kind of vulture around the same topic and I'm sort of throwing out questions and almost going in a little bit of circles. And by no means, like if I did this on a live sales call, would I have lost the sale? Probably not, right? But I want to show you guys, obviously as your teacher in this course, I want to show you guys perfection, right? And this definitely wasn't a perfect call. There was definitely some errors there. And again, one of them was just trying to follow the process too strictly just so you guys could see it. And this is an important lesson for you because when a lot of you guys learn this sales training and you learn this whole new process, you take that into your calls and you're trying to follow it to a T because you're trying to be a good student. And sales is one of these funny things where you do want to loosely follow the process, but you can't be rigid. You got to have fluidity, right? You got to have behavioral flexibility. And I really want to, hopefully this will drive that lesson home for you in this call analysis breakdown, okay? But this is going to be one of the most important videos you watch in the course. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to take some notes here based on what I'm doing, what's Brian, the prospect, saying on the call. So let's get into it.
Hello?
Hey, is this Brian?
Yep.
Brian, what's up, man? This is Cole, just calling from the Remote Closing Academy, just about the appointment you scheduled with us at 3 p.m. Central Time, man. What are you up to?
Dude, just hanging out. How are you doing?
Good, man. You've been having a good week so far?
So really light here, but I like, instead of how's it going, what are you up to? What are you doing? Something like that. Just how's it going? I know this is so subtle, but how's it going kind of puts them into a pattern. It's always good. What are you up to? What's been going on? Stuff like that. Sometimes it helps them kind of think about what they're doing. Okay, so it kind of puts them in a little bit of a different pattern. I'm going to start to speed this up, guys. So this is a video where a lot of you guys watch these on 2x speed. I'm going to play this at 1.5 times. So you'll probably want to watch this breakdown on normal speed.
Yeah, dude, it's been good. Been just relaxing. How about you?
Pretty much the same, man. It's that time of year,
Yep.
So,
okay, so that was rapport, guys. 28 seconds. 28 seconds rapport, and that was a pretty good rapport, okay? What are you up? I said, hey, is this Cole? Or hey, is this Brian? Hey, this is Cole from company name. What are you up to? Cool, man. How's the week been? Just one rapport question. And obviously, and this is how Brian is actually normally as a person anyways. And this is how a lot of prospects are. kind of high D, direct. You can tell, he just wants to get to the point. So 28 seconds, I just dive right in. Now, if you have a very high I person who's super, really wants to kind of get to know you, you want to maybe have a minute to 90 seconds here tops. Just extend it out a little bit more, but you don't want to do anything crazy.
Anyways, know we got a little bit amount of time. Do you have like a clean sheet of paper, something to take notes with, ready to dive in?
Yep, got it pulled up. Got my notes.
Cool.
So,
So
the reason we do that, especially in an audio call, okay? I do by and large recommend video nowadays, especially post-COVID, but I wanted to show you an audio example, and a video example is going to be one of the other ones in this week. Do you have a clean sheet of paper, something to take notes with, ready to dive in? Okay? What I'm doing is I'm temperature checking to see if they're in a buying situation. And, a lot of times if they're, doing laundry, they're walking outside, they're, whatever it is. I don't know where they are, especially on an audio call. I want to make sure they're not driving. This assures that they're in a buying situation and I can sit them down with a pen and pad because they don't really know what's next. Like for all he knows, I could start, sharing my screen or have them pull something up on the computer. You just don't even know, right? So this is key to see kind of like where, I've had people done this to people and they're at their kid's baseball game and you would have never even known it based on what you're hearing on the call. You can't even hear anything in the background. The dude's at the baseball game. I'm like, all right, man, we got to reschedule. Sometimes they're driving and you just can't hear it. So that's key, or they're outside, right?
Got your form in here. That kind of gives me like a 30,000 view of kind of what you were looking for. But man, like what I really found to work best on these calls is just first kind of diving into the specifics of what you're doing right now with your career. Okay, like things we like about that, things we don't like about that, and then ultimately in terms of our goals, what we're looking to move towards. Okay, income goals, impact goals, things we want to do personally, professionally, so on and so forth. And at that point, if it makes sense and you feel like you want to, we can definitely talk about what I have going on over here if that's where you want to go. Or at the very least, man, like have a ton of experience, really well connected in the space. I can either pair you off with somebody else, point you in a good direction, or give you some homework until you're ready. Sound cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool, man. So
that was the frame of the call. Now I will be candid with you guys. I don't always do like really now when I'm doing. I don't really take sales calls anymore. I have a sales team, but when I did take sales calls, especially for our sales team accelerator offer, I didn't ever do any sort of frame the call type of thing. Now that's because of my energy and just how I can ask questions. And also my authority and all this stuff. I just don't need to. I can lead the call without it. And there's just no reason for me to do it if I don't need to. Now, if you're just starting off, or you sell kind of biz op, B2C, unsophisticated markets, I do recommend you framing the call. And a lot of times I just think it's easier to frame the call because it does give you a feeling and a sense of control. And the downside is just not really there. It's just a known standard. And especially for people who are unsophisticated B2C markets, if they haven't heard this before, this kind of puts them at ease so they know it's next. So that's how I would do it. Now, one thing is, that was not scripted at all. Okay, I just riffed that off right off the cuff. And, it was loosely, I guess, scripted. I mean, I say something similar each time, but I wasn't looking at like a script there. But just listen to how natural that was. There was a good range of expression. There was good pauses, and I was emphasizing certain things, and my tonality was changing. Cadence is good. That just made it seem so much more natural. And instead of some scripted like, well, how's this call is going to go. I'm going to ask you some questions about your business. It was engaging, okay? And that's key for framing the calls. Like the last thing we want to do is 1 minute, 29 seconds in, just give away the fact that we're a salesperson. Okay, here, he's reading from the script. We don't want that, okay?
So I guess the best place to start is, right now, at least kind of in your career and getting into remote closing, what would you say is your biggest challenge, or what's the biggest thing you're looking for help with potentially?
Okay, so what's the biggest challenge? What's the biggest thing you're looking for help with? What's the biggest thing you're looking for help with is a softener to the challenge, because that can be a little bit direct. So you see how, and I know I'm getting super nitty gritty here, and it's also at 1.5 times speed. So if you really listen to it at 1x, you'd be able to see I didn't say, okay, man, so best place to start, what's the biggest challenge right now? What's not working, right? Like that's extreme, obviously, guys. But you could see how I didn't do anything like that. And instead I was like, gotcha. So probably the best place to start is, what would you say is really, your biggest challenge in the business, or at least what's not working at the level that you feel like it truly could be or that it should. So you see how it's almost like there's a implied thoughtfulness in my questions. I'm not going through a script, but I'm really engaged in the conversation myself. That's pulling them in as well, okay? And it's so much more authentic. Now, the funny thing is, it is, I say that question every time, right? So this is why I say you guys need to be like an actor, right? If you watch Leonardo DiCaprio in a movie, he's amazing, but he's totally scripted. Now, do you look at him and you feel like he's scripted? Do you feel like, oh man, he's just working off the script? No, right? It's because of the delivery. That's the key.
I mean, like, based off of like what I saw from you guys, I would say the biggest thing is just like an uptick in income potential.
Okay, in what way?
I mean, like what I'm doing right now, like.
Okay, so you see how he just, and then look there. I could have paused, and he probably would have, see, that was a little quick that I jumped in. I could have paused, and he probably would have filled the space and went deeper without me even saying anything. However, you know, I hopped right in because I know a bigger income potential. It's like, all right, dude, well, like that doesn't give me any info. And so I say, in what way though? Right? That's one of the, in what way though, is one of the questions I ask. It's very similar to tell me more. What do you mean? Any of those questions that allow us to go deeper, right? Sometimes I could have just said in this situation, okay, bigger income potential. And they just would have, yeah, you know, and then justified their position.
Just like the income, like I'm in sales right now, but like the commissions and everything, it's like very capped, and I have to be in an office and things like that. And so I've started lately to feel like making the money I actually want to make, like isn't possible with what I'm doing now. So I'm just kind of exploring like every option. I mean, dude, like to be honest, I've been looking into like everything to try and figure it out, you know?
Okay, cool. You said a lot there. So I want to circle back to what you said there in just a moment. But I think first what really helps is beginning with the end in mind. So
okay, so a few things here that we got just from that. More income, right? So we want to know, okay, well, what's he making now? What does he want to make? He's in sales right now. Okay, well, what's his current, what is he selling right now? Does he like it? What does he like about it? How long has he been doing it for? Wow, you're doing it for a year, and you know, you kind of like it. I mean, can I ask you a personal question? After all of that time, you know, wow, all of a sudden you want to transition into something now, though. Like, what shifted for you? What happened? Cap commissions, what do you mean? Okay, looking into everything. Well, what else are you looking into? What's drawing your attention? What was it about, you know, what you saw in the ad that stuck about it to book this call? So you see how I took notes here, and it's like almost like a, I'm trying to think of, it's almost like a mind map, right? There's this, right? And then there's three sort of key things here, and then for each of these, there's like 3 or 4 questions I could ask to go deeper. Now, normally, on a normal sales call, what I probably, because on a normal sales call, guys, I'm not thinking about, oh, goals for syntax, problem for syntax. On a normal sales call, like what my mind thinks about is the set, okay, paying out cost, desire, money, support, trust. Boom. Like I'm always thinking that. And I have a little checklist of like the key areas I need to hit, right? And I showed you guys that on like how to take notes, that training, which you already should have watched. So what I'm thinking about, like in a normal sales call, I would have went into all those questions. I just want to took what he said and went deeper. Now, here's what I said about earlier. I was trying to follow the goals for syntax for you guys. So what I do, and this is not the worst thing in the world, okay? Not the worst thing in the world by any means. But what I do is say, okay, that makes all sense. I'm going to circle back to that in just a second, open loop. Let's begin with the end in mind. Ultimately, like what's the goal, okay? So that's what I say here. And that's not, you know, necessarily bad. Just naturally, it's not probably what I would have done. But I'm just kind of rigidly following goals for syntax here, which is fine.
So like right now, ultimately, what's the goal? Like in terms of commissions, in terms of income, just like everything, you know, ultimately what's the goal?
Okay, so one key thing there about this question is you see how I said, gotcha, so right now, right, and that kind of accentuated that in this breakdown here. I said, okay, well, right now, pause, which is a pattern interrupt, getting them back into the present moment, engaging them. So I just do little stuff like that all the time. Ultimately, what's the goal? Now, ultimately, what's the goal is like the vaguest question ever, right? And I kind of like that because, man, I've asked people this question, and they'll respond with something like, man, well, ultimately, the goal is to build libraries in, you know, some third world country. You know, and they start telling me about that. I'm like, whoa. You know, and so it's sometimes like they come on and they want, you know, to build an Amazon FBA store or whatever it is. And then like they say something like that and you're like, oh, okay, well, how does this all tie in together? So I like to keep it broad and then chunk it down to the specific things that we learn in goals for syntax, right? Which is basically how much money do they want to make? What's their long-term vision and impact look like? And then what are the non-monetary goals, personal goals that vision, income, and impact is going to allow them to achieve, right? We want to break it down into those 3 things.
I don't really have like an exact number. I mean, ideally, I'd like to be making like 150, 200,000 a year.
Okay. Obviously, you thought about 150 to 250K a year. Why that number?
Okay, so he's like, you know, and this is you get some prospects like these, but normally, man, people are gonna like explode and vomit all over you when you ask this question. Brian here, and this is naturally his personality, is kind of 150, 200K a year. Like that's all he just says, just money, you know? So I'm gonna say, okay, well, why that number, right? I didn't say, ultimately, what's that gonna do for you? Well, why is that important? Oh, well, what's that gonna mean if you can achieve that? None of those questions are necessarily bad, depending on the frame and context of what you ask them. But I like better to, instead, it's like I'm kind of pushing against what he's saying, and I'm saying, okay, well, why that number? You know, I'm just curious, and I'm getting him to justify his position.
I would just say like right now, like I want to have a family and want to have, like provide them a good life, and it seems like a number where like I can afford a house, I can afford the car I want, like I can take care of a family, my wife doesn't have to work. It just kind of seems like a number where I'll be able to go get all of that. If that makes sense.
Cool, makes sense. Besides from having a car, a nice house, stuff. When you say you said provide for family 3 times. So when you say that, like what does that look like? Like when you're doing at the level that you want it to be, what does that look like for you specifically?
Okay, that was a good question. All right, because he said to kind of take care of the family, be the dad that he wants to be, etc. That's kind of surface level. So I'm like, okay, well that makes sense. I mean, you mentioned that multiple times there, so I know it's important. Like, just to get clear here, when you say you want to provide for your family in a way in which you have the income and you're able to be there for your kids and all that stuff and have a nice house, nice car, I mean, beyond those basic things, what does that look like for you specifically? I'm just trying to kind of paint the picture a little bit more clear here. So now I have income goals. I kind of have why that goal is important. I'm sort of on more like a long-term, like overall vision of what his life wants to look like.
I mean, like I grew up in a house where like I felt like I had everything I needed, but like it wasn't. I mean, like there's also things that I wanted, like I wanted to go on better vacations. Like I wish my dad was at home more. And so like I'm younger in life right now. And as I just like think about having kids and thinking about like my family in the future, I just want to make sure that they have the best life possible.
Gotcha. Cool. What are your other non-monetary goals? Like what are your other goals, personal goals that you want your business to allow you to achieve or your career to allow you to achieve? And the reason I ask is because one of the big things and reasons I do this and the RCA stuff is not just to give you a skill that's building you wealth, but also one that's empowering you to live whatever lifestyle that you want to live. So when you think about that, what is that for you exactly?
So great question. And again, this is kind of following the syntax, right? So I just hit long-term vision. I just hit income goal. Now I'm going for like, well, what other personal goals? Just to see if there's any level deeper here. And then I love that framing. Like, and the reason I asked this question, right? We're doing permission, reason why question here. Reason why I asked this question is because part of the reason I do this is not just to help you, make money, but to empower you to live whatever lifestyle that you want to live. So I'm kind of justifying it here.
I mean, like I don't think it's that crazy for me. I'm sure like a lot of people are like, I want to be on the beach in Mexico. For me, dude, it's mostly just like I hate having like a manager that is like breathing down my neck, and then like I hate having to drive 30 minutes to go sit in an office to do a job that I could do from home. So I mean, nothing crazy. Like I just hate my manager. Hate dealing with like that whole ecosystem, and it's really frustrating like being tied to a location for 40 hours a week.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. And so on the flip side of those things you don't like what type of career?
Okay, so this is where that was probably all I needed, guys, for goals for syntax. I'm actually going to pull up the diagram here so you can see where we're at in the process. Okay, we're back. So you see how I did the challenge, then we went desired situation, ultimate goal. So you see how we actually have all of these at this point. And then now this next question that's coming up, kind of a little redundant. Like I don't need to ask this. I should just move on to current situation and dig into stuff like, manager breathing down his neck. I should have just said, gotcha. So, or not even gotcha. It's just, okay, well, so your manager's breathing down your neck right now? Something like that. Just going a little bit deeper into kind of the negative side. Because this is definitely a moving away from opposed to a moving towards.
What are you looking for? Like when you think about the things that you want with your career, outside of just the income standpoint, because we talked about that, like what do you want?
Okay, so again, like he's already kind of told me this. Great example. What I was trying to do is try to follow the process too much. A little redundant. Should have moved on.
I mean, dude, just like work for somebody or like do something that is fulfilling in the sense where like I feel like it's challenging and progressing and like it's something I enjoy. And then just like feeling like I have some sort of say over like my time and my schedule and like kind of being my own boss, so to speak.
Yeah, just having a sense of control.
Yeah, like if I don't want to work on Thursday, then I'm not going to work on Thursday type of thing.
For sure. Cool. What are you doing for work right now?
Okay. And you could tell when I asked that and I got that response, I was like, that was redundant. So it's not the end of the world, guys. Like, did that lose me the sale? No. But it's like Jordan Belfort says losing sales or winning sales is like the death by 1,000 cuts. So that was like kind of one of the 1,000 cuts there that just kind of is like, if you're the prospect, you're like, dude, I've kind of already answered this. Like, what the hell? you know? So it breaks rapport and trust in a way, and it's like, is this guy really hearing me or what's going on? So again, I'm being hypercritical on myself, guys, but I wouldn't have asked that question. I would have moved on to what I just asked, which is, what are you doing for work right now? Look, current situation, right?
I work for Pinterest.
Gotcha. Pinterest, and then you're in sales for them.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you like it?
I mean, yeah, dude, to be honest, like I really like it. Like I love the actual like job itself. I just hate like everything that comes with the job.
Okay, in what way?
Like the managers going into an office, the people I work with, pretty much everything that's not like my actual like task at hand.
Okay, can you be specific for me? Like, take me back. You mentioned your manager a couple times. Take me back to the last time where, like, I don't know, he like pissed you off or something. Like, what? Walk me through that. Like, what happened?
That was a good question, right? Take me back. So you see how I'm chunking down, guys?
Oof. So her name's Amanda, and I mean, dude, it's just a shit ecosystem where like all the managers are buddies, and they all like they're not better at the job than anybody. They're just there because like they're all buds, and so they all kind of like recruited each other into a management position. So they just don't do anything, and then like they're just like always on top of everybody for like stupid stuff. So like the last time, I mean, like dude, it happens like every single week. But like I'll have like a meeting with her, and she'll be like, okay, well, like how's everything going? I'll be like, well, it's great, and she'll be like, well, what does that like? What does that mean? It's great. And it's like she's like fishing so hard. I don't know, dude. It's annoying. Like I work 4 times as hard. We make the same amount of money, and like she doesn't actually do anything.
I gotcha. And how long you been doing that for? That job?
Believe it or not, guys, I'm not actually looking. I'm not even looking at this as I am on this call, but you can see this is where I'm at. Right? I just know this by second nature. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of a 2 truths here, you know, and now going, how long you've been doing it, right? And I'm setting myself up for like the why now question, which let me see if this is up here. Yeah, right. So kind of what is he currently doing, right? Or what does he like about it, not like about it? Kind of chunk that down a little bit, pulled out some pain. Now I'm stretching it. How long you've been doing that for? You know, the next thing I want to do is the why now.
A year.
Cool. Well, okay. Well, you've been doing that whole 12 months. Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
So you see how there was implied thoughtfulness. You've been doing that for a whole 12 months. Can I ask you a personal question? Right? So you see how I'm doing that, guys? And you just you gotta watch out with that stuff, because a lot of times when people try to do that implied thoughtfulness, they come off very passive. Okay, we don't want to do that, right? Like we still want to be the clear leader, but it's like we want to kind of be thinking about what they're saying as they're saying it. So listen to this again at 1x speed. You'll really get a good feel for what I'm doing.
You know, after all that time, like obviously, you know, there's things you like about it, and then there's things like you mentioned you don't like. You know, why all of a sudden, just recently, have you been considering moving out of that now, though? Like, what shifted for you? What happened?
So you see, I mean, I'm this again, permission, reason why, question. So I said, can I ask you a personal question? Can I ask you a personal question implies a personal answer, right? And it's permission, so it's increased compliance. And then I give my reason. Well, you've been doing that for a whole year now, right? And then I started to kind of feed back some of the stuff he's saying as context to justify why I'm curious and asking the question, further compliance. And then I say, so why all of a sudden are you wanted to shift now though? Like what shifted for you? What happened? And I like the why now though. What shifted for you? What happened? Because I'm trying to trace it back to the moment of the decision where somebody drew the line in the sand and was like, F this, I'm out, right? Like sometimes, I'll give you a few examples, you know, and I forget what he says here, but, you know, there's a time, for instance, I know somebody who just quit his job, okay? And there was something his boss just said to him, it was the other day, it was this past week, it's just a buddy of mine. His boss said something to him, and it was like, he said this one thing, and it was, boom, that was it. And obviously it made him emotional, he quit the next day. And, you know, if I was selling this person or that person, I would want to re-elicit that situation, because when I get him to tell me what happened, the moment of decision, okay, when he drew the line in the sand, more importantly, who's he telling? He's telling himself, and in the process of doing so, re-eliciting all of those emotions that are, associated with that moment, which, by the way, are the emotions of change, of decision, right? So we're bringing those back up to the surface. That's why, very subtle, I just tack on to the end there, what happened?
So I in the morning before I go to work, I do personal training. And so for like a while, it was like, oh, I'll be an online personal trainer. Then like I realized I don't really want to do that. then it was like I like the whole like this whole year like I've been like kind of trying to do stuff on the side, you know. And, like to be honest, like I've sunk a bunch of money into dumb stuff, like trying to run a dropshipping store, that didn't work. Like try doing like Amazon, that didn't work. And then I've been like the whole year I've been open to opportunity and I tried different things, and then none of them have like worked to the degree that I would feel comfortable leaving. And then this came up and like this was super interesting to me.
Gotcha. Why though?
Oh, so that was perfect. You know, now I'm getting him to justify why this is different than like why is he more interested in this? Why does he feel like this is going to work opposed to Amazon dropshipping, all of that other shit? So that's going to be a key selling point in this as well, is that, you know, because it's kind of a little bit of shiny object stuff going on here, guys. This is what you got to deal with BizOp, is that there's all these different opportunities. You got to make sure they're the sale is not really on your product. The sale is on your opportunity. Okay? So, and truth be told, I probably could have done a little bit better job selling them on this opportunity on this call. But just since it was like my literally first call ever doing one of these, I just really hadn't kind of built out my argument for that yet. So anyways, keep going.
I mean, it doesn't seem like too far off from what I'm doing now. And I'm decent at what I do now. I'm pretty good actually at what I do now. It's just like, I mean, dude, like I'm sure you've probably been in sales for a while. Like any type of like local sales gig, it's hard to find like a high income sales gig like locally, you know, unless I like sell medical equipment or something like that. Or like do door-to-door solar sales, and both of those things are way worse than in office. So I don't know, dude. Like I haven't really figured out like what the next step is of sales. Like I don't have a college degree. I don't know, but this just seemed like a potential route. I'm not sure. I don't know too much about it though.
Yeah. Well, have you looked into any sort of closing or gotten training for closing before?
I mean, like I've taken like sales courses on Udemy and like.
So now I'm in solution questions. I would tack on here. I know I don't ask this question. I would tack on here. Okay. Is there any other reason why like this appeals to you opposed to like Amazon FBA or one of those things you were doing? Like why not just stick with one of those? So I want him to get him to justify to me why. I want to try to get him to eliminate those other bridges from current situation to desired situation, and just like kind of get him out of the you know, trying to decide what opportunity. I want him to be selling himself on this one.
Like I'm pretty active and like trying to learn about sales. Like I'm one of the top people on our floor, and like I've read sales books, but I haven't like done anything past that.
Gotcha. You never had like a coach?
I don't really know what I would do past that, to be honest.
Gotcha. You never had like a coach?
No.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Obviously, this is a coaching program. Have you ever read a coach? No. Right. So that's a key differentiator, because if he's done Amazon FBA, dropshipping, whatever, he's only done courses, never had a coach.
Well, man, like, what do you think? Because you've been trying to do, you know, all these different opportunities like Amazon and e-commerce and agency and like, you know, all of the stuff, right? And I totally get it. I'm not like prodding at you because I've done the same thing. What do you think has been like the biggest thing that's been keeping you from being able to like transition out of your job and replace your income? Like, what's been in the way?
Okay, so I'm asking the doubt question here, and truth be told, this is another example of this, right? I was just trying to like I was trying to check all the 7 beliefs for you guys. Truth be told, this is a great example of a call where like this guy's been failing, you know, the entire time. He's making what, $4,000 a month or whatever he's making. You know, I don't need to really ask that. Okay, like obviously you can't figure it out. You know, if he tried to be like, oh, I'm just gonna figure it out, I would just hammer him. You know, at the end, just dude, look at your track record. Like you've been trying this for a year, haven't been able to figure it out. How do you think you're going to get up to speed remote closing when you don't have the connections, you don't have the skill set, and you've really never even done this before? So this is, again, like I wouldn't have asked that question here. And is it a sale breaker? No. But again, death by 1,000 cuts.
I mean, each individual thing like had their own issues, right? Like with Amazon, it was like, if you want to make any money, you basically like have to grab like a 40K credit limit to buy a bunch of product. And I didn't want to do that. With like drop shipping, I made a little bit of money, but like, I mean, dude, you said you've done it. Like, it's like dude, you just like, you don't sleep well knowing you're selling broken shit from China to people. It's just like, It's not good. I wasn't interested in that. And so, yeah, I just like, I'm very conscientious of like, when I do leave my job, it's going to be because like, it makes logical sense, right? Like I want to make sure it's the right thing to do. I'm not just going to skip out. So there hasn't really been something yet where it's like, okay, cool. I can definitely see how like this is going to provide for me for the next few years.
Right. But one thing I appreciate about you is that you've tried a lot of different opportunities, and like when one thing didn't work, you go to the next thing, and like you put a lot of effort, like you said, money towards this. Can I ask you another personal question?
Yeah.
Like, what has you keep it on? Like, what about getting out of what you're doing and doing your own thing is ultimately, I mean, so important?
It's a good question, dude. I mean, like, I'm only 21, right?
So again, not a deal breaker, but man, what I see, the reason I asked that was when I asked that first, why now, what shifted for you, what happened, I didn't get the biggest thing in the world, right? So I'm going for it here again, which can also break rapport because it's like, dude, you're asking the same question. What I probably would have done is I do think it's the right thing to re-go for it here, except I would have acknowledged, I know, earlier when I asked you what shifted for you, you said this, and this, but like for real, like what's really driving you? What has you keep it on? So I would have acknowledged this time of his last answer and incorporated it into this one and then asked the whole keep it on. But notice how I did do the can I ask you a personal question? The reason why I'm asking you this is if you tried Amazon FBA, Amazon, all these other opportunities, you've done this, been trying to do this for a year, like, dude, how's you keep it on? Like, what about this is so important? I just would have said, well, how's you keep it on? I know you mentioned before, like a big thing is family. A big thing is being able to make money that you want to. A big thing is getting out of a job that you hate. But like, there's gotta be a bigger driving force inside of you because you haven't quit yet. So why is that? See, that would have been a little bit better way to frame this without being as redundant.
Now, and like, dude, I go to work and like most of the dudes that work with me are like in their 30s and have like 3 kids. And like they make the same, if not less money than I do because I'm pretty damn good at the job. And like I just look at them, I'm like, oh my goodness, like how are you? Like you have kids? Like what? It just like, dude, to be honest, like it freaks me out. And then it's like that plus like my dad like has pretty like wealthy friends and like people that do really, really well. And so I see like this really like strong like juxtaposition between the two, and it's pretty clear to me that like I want one more than the other,
Yeah. What do you have to make just to replace?
So, one key thing I'll also say about this, I mean, I'm being extremely nitpicky of myself here, guys, so hopefully you find this valuable. But like, this is also, and if you're selling BizOp, like let's say you're selling a BizOp, grow your agency, BizOp, drop shipping. You're going to get a lot of guys 18 to 25, right? I will tell you this, some of them do have big whys, a lot of them don't, right? A lot of them have just big goals. And they just need held accountable to having their actions align with these big goals and these, things they say they want, but their behaviors aren't aligned to it, right? We got to just hold them accountable to that. So I just want to let you know, like, this is actually very typical of like a BizOp offer with especially a young male is they're not going to be like, giving you this crazy sob story about all of this stuff and why it's so important and the impact and all this. No, it's just going to be a little bit more like, don't be frustrated if you're fishing for this stuff and you can't find it. It's just how it is with these guys. But you can still drop the hammer at the end and really make sure their actions align with the things they say that they want.
Replace the amount of income you're getting from Pinterest.
I mean, not much, dude. Like $3,500, $4,000 a month.
Gotcha. Okay. You married?
Yep.
What's your wife think?
So I actually just hit one here. This is the financial qualifier. That was what I just did there. How much do you have to make just to replace the amount of income you're making from Pinterest? Okay. So the key here is I didn't ask how much money are you making now, even though with this guy, you've already just would have told me. I asked how much money would you have to make just to replace the amount of income that you're making full time? Okay. So you see how I framed it as a goal, but I actually financially qualified how much money he's making right now. Right. And granted, he has a full-time 9-to-5 job. He probably has access to credit. Like this dude should be fine, right? It's definitely worth pitching. Like what you guys don't want to do is qualify so hard financially in the front end that it just sets a weird sales frame on the conversation, or you just disqualify. Like guys, if the dude's living in a van down by the river, okay, if he's working at Walmart, if he's on food stamps, okay, yeah, disqualify. But most of these guys just pitch them, okay? If you're on the call, you set aside the time, and you can help them. Obviously, if you can help them. Just go to the close and then get cash on hand and credit after they're already sold on the fact that they want to do it. But that was what I just did right there. I kind of jumped back up here because I missed it, which you can definitely do to get the financial qualifier. Now I'm down here and I'm going to, basically see what his wife thinks about, him. The easiest way to qualify with spouse is to make it relevant to the situation. So I'm going to ask, gotcha, well, you want to transition out of 9-to-5 into a remote kind of your own thing, solopreneur type of deal. What does your wife think about that? Right? So I'm qualifying in a very pertinent way. I'm not asking, does she need to be on the call for you to make a decision? I'm kind of like doing it very tactfully.
Think about you transitioning out of the pushy old 9-to-5.
I mean, dude, she's probably like the most supportive person on the planet. Like if it made sense, like she'd be game for it. She wouldn't have any resistance towards it.
Cool. Awesome. Cool. I feel like we covered pretty much everything, man. Is there anything else you feel like we haven't covered that you feel like I need to know?
No, I guess I'm just a little curious, like, on like what exactly it is like you guys do. Like, I've gotten on these calls with like guys that like do e-commerce stuff and Amazon stuff, and like obviously there's something, you know. So I'm just kind of curious of like what it all looks like what the picture actually is. Does that make sense?
So, okay, I'm going to tell you guys this. What I'm going to do right here is, let me pause this again and go into a flowchart. Alrighty, guys. So we did introduction to report frame, right? We hit all of these. Okay, we hit all of these. Probably could have done a little bit better job on this one. And we probably could have gotten through it quicker. Like, I probably could have hit it in 12, 11 minutes. But, 14 is actually right on point. Now, in goals for syntax, especially when you're selling a BizOp, okay, a lot of the sale is predicated on you selling them the method and the opportunity, right? So if you're taking somebody who just wants to make money online and you want to teach them how to do an agency, you want to teach them how to do a dropshipping store, you want to teach them how to do a turnkey Amazon business, high ticket closing, whatever, right? I've seen a million different opportunities. Right now, what I would have asked, and I didn't do it in this call simply because we just hadn't, I haven't created this in our own sales process yet. But what I would do is create a little portion here where you talk about the method. So I would have said, is there anything else you feel like I need to know? And he, he just gave his response. Then I'd say, gotcha. Well, how familiar are you with what remote closing is and how it works? Or how familiar are you with how, what high ticket closing is and how it works? Now, if they're already, I'm going to get a temperature check here. If they're already totally sold on the fact that they want to be a closer, okay, or let's say you do Amazon FBA. If they're already, doing Amazon FBA, if they're already totally sold that they want to do Amazon FBA, you just skip this part here, okay? And then you go right to the transition and to the pitch, okay? But a lot of you guys, the big reason BizOp, people lose sales, let's say you teach somebody how to buy businesses. The big reason you're going to lose sales is because the person's, it's not that they're not sold on your product, it's that they're not even sold that they want to buy businesses, right? Once they're sold on the fact that the fastest way for them to get to their desired situation, let's say $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a month, whatever their goal is to buy businesses, that's your business opportunity, then your product's an easy sale because they obviously don't know how to do it on their own and they probably aren't looking at other options. Okay, so this is how we sell problem-aware markets. So what I would have done here, again, just to digress, is in this situation with Brian, I would have hopped on Zoom. So technically we were actually on Zoom. So I would have shared my screen and I would have said, how familiar are you with what remote closing is? And he would have said, either he's super familiar, he wants to do it, he's already decided he's going to do it, or kind of familiar, but I don't really know, which is probably the general responses, or not at all, right? Gotcha. Okay, well, here's how it works. Here's what it is, and here's how it works. So I would have outlined, if I wanted to get super fancy, maybe I would have done like a little iPad, iPencil type of deal, screen share. I could have just brought up a lucid chart thing right here and did some stuff. And you could pre-prepare materials if you wanted to. And I would have showed him what the model is, kind of how it works, right, and where he fits into it. And I would have said, does that make sense? Cool. Now here's why, and then I would have went into why. I said, here's why I believe, like you said, your goal was $20,000, $30,000 a month, right? He would have said, yeah. Here's why I believe compared to Amazon FBA, dropshipping, buying businesses, boom. I would have all the other potential BizOp opportunities that he has, all my competitor new opportunities. I would have said, here's why I think this is the fastest route and the easiest route and what I would do if I was you. In fact, this is exactly what I've done. And then I would have went into why this, I just would explain why this is the best way, right? And I would have, in the case for high ticket closing, I would have said, you don't have to create your own product, service, you don't have to do any of the marketing, you don't have to do any of the lead generation, you don't have to manage team, you don't have to do any fulfillment. Really, you just had to become good at one skill, step in and be able to perform, and compared to other sales positions, has the shortest sales cycle. You get paid on commissions for that week. Commissions are typically anywhere from $500 to $1K per sale. You get paid pretty much immediately. And because they're transformational based offers, people are thanking you for enrolling them. And so you said you want to make $20,000 a month. Well, if you get this amount of leads and you close this amount that show, and you're making this amount of commission, you only need to close 4 a week. That's it to hit that number. And probably we can teach you how to do 5, 6, 7, or 8 easy. I was doing 8 when I sold full time. Right, so what I would have done is, again, I'll write it over here. And this is only, guys, if you have like a new opportunity where they have to get sold on the method before getting sold on the product. I would have outlined, okay, what the opportunity is, how it works, tie down. Makes sense, okay? And then I would have done why, and I would have killed all other bridges, right? And this is, personally, I probably would have done this on iPad, iPencil if it was me. And then I would have done chunking down. And I would have showed them the path to their goals, right? Maybe it's agency services. Dude, one of the best things about agency services, especially the way we teach, because we're going after big e-commerce brands, is that you can charge $10K for a 90-day engagement with a client. Now, you said your goal is $20K a month. Well, you only got to land 2 clients a month. That's it to be able to hit that goal. And if you close 20% of the people you'll speak to, which we'll teach you how to do, that's only what? 10 conversations a month you have to have with clients? That's it. And we can absolutely teach you how to do that. So that being said, where do you want to go from here? I can walk you through the process pretty much A to Z if you would like, but you tell me where you want to go. So you see how this is actually kind of what used to be referred to as the pre-pitch method, okay? But it's really selling them. Remember, like Russell Brunson, he's not the one who made this up, but he's the first one I heard it from, is he talks about the domino belief. That's what we're doing here is we're selling them on the domino belief, okay? That, like for instance, and with ClickFunnels, his belief is that the key to online business success is creating funnels, and the only way to create funnels is through ClickFunnels. So the new opportunity is creating funnels. That's what we want to sell them on, that creating funnels is the way. Because if he sells you on that, which is what he does on stage, all he sells you on is the idea that funnels is the way. Then obviously you're going to buy ClickFunnels. You have no other option, right? So what I want to do here in this little transition phase is if he's not already sold on high ticket closing, I want to sell him on high ticket closing because then, dude, like he's going to obviously take my pitch. And so you can do this really for any offer, but BizOp is where it's key, okay? It's where it's key. I used to sell a product and service where we taught people how to go high ticket, okay? And scale high ticket companies. Now, some people are already doing high ticket. They just want to get to the next level. They just needed help with traffic. I wasn't doing this for them because like they're already kind of aligned with that belief, right? They have a genuine problem they need solved. But other people were doing low ticket. They were charging $40 an hour. And I got to sell them on high tickets the way. And then if they're bought into the fact that they need to go high ticket, they're obviously just going to buy from us. They have no choice. So this is a key. I totally digressed here, guys. But this is key, okay? Key. If you make this sale, and again, I would tie down again. If you make this sale, they'll buy every time if they have money. And the further resource for this is the pre-pitch method. I'll go ahead and put it after this video probably. If not, it's going to be in the bonus section. It was actually the first training I ever created. But I created it because like when I launched my business, I launched it off the back of creating that pre-pitch training. And I just knew, I was like, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. But I was like, man, whatever I'm doing here, if I sell people on this thing and I land this pre-pitch, they buy every time. So I just went on and on and on about that. But let's get back to the call. And to digress, basically everything I told you I'm going to do here, I didn't do in this example. And it was simply because I just hadn't thought out like actually what I would say in this situation when I was doing this call. So I'm teaching you guys this in hindsight. You're going to actually see me skip what I just told you to do and go right to the transition.
For sure, yeah. And I can give you some insight on that because honestly, probably about 5 years ago now, I was doing a lot of the same stuff like have my own agency. I mean, you're selling for Pinterest, so kind of a little bit different, but I had an agency at the same time on the side. I was trying to do like e-com, Amazon, all the stupid shit all at once, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, it was overwhelming. I felt like I had to learn like 100 different skills at once. It was like managing a team, creating a product, running ads for myself, running ads for the clients. Couldn't get the clients' results, had to outsource to contractors, all of that stuff. And for me, like I saw some of my friends in the industry doing $20,000 a month as closers, focusing on one thing. And still having all the benefits, working from anywhere they wanted to, being able to travel, being able to have, a considerable amount of income, 6 figures, multiple 6 figures. It's all net, no expenses, none of that bullshit. So for me, like eventually I just got to a point where I transitioned to that and being able to focus on just one skill and one thing, not only was like so refreshing, but at the same time, I made way more money than I ever did with my agency and really was able to scale that to like $30,000, $40,000 a month. And at the same time, eventually parlayed that into my own company where, I've done multiple millions just this year. Mm-hmm. Right? So the reason I tell you that's not to like try to impress you with, my track record or anything, but more so just to show you like the journey that you're about to embark on is really the same one I've done myself. And I can help you really eliminate a lot of the trial and error I went through and get you to where I've gotten a lot faster, given you're committed to it. You know what I mean? So that being said, man, we can go wherever you want to go from here. I can pretty much walk you through how everything works A to Z if you'd like, but it's all where you want to go.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it.
Okay, so you see what I just did there. Basically, I did a basic transition. Okay, now, again, in hindsight, I would have done this kind of pre-pitch type of thing. I would have sold them on the method, and I might even peppered in that story I just did. But, you know, in a case where they don't need sold on the method, a story, especially your own personal story if you're the guru, is like, I mean, that's the best way to go. Everybody loves stories. It's super engaging. You build rapport, build relatability. I just dropped a ton of proof because I've literally just done what I'm going to tell this guy to do. And so it's really, really key. You know, probably in a perfect world, I would have done this wholesale in the method and then kind of intertwined with this, probably in the why section, I would have dropped my own personal story. Okay? So I would have had the best of both worlds there. But guys, like, don't especially, you know, when in doubt, just do super basic transition, okay? Super basic transition. Don't worry about a story. Don't worry about shit. But if it comes, you know, it comes naturally. Like this story was not scripted. I just ring this off the cuff, okay? And so it could be way better. If I was doing this call, you know, I was taking this off for 5 calls a day every single day, this story would have been way better. I would have polished it over time, based on the feedback I was getting from prospects. But, you know, don't be afraid to drop a story in your little transition here. It makes it so fluid, okay? Especially the way I did it. But, you know, when in doubt, don't try to force it, okay? You could have just said, gotcha, man. Well, we can definitely help. So where do you want to go from here? I can pretty much walk you through the process A to Z if you would like, but you tell me where you want to go, right? You can always default to the super basic. But this was kind of a basic transition where I, you know, peppered in a little bit of story, got fancy, and it felt real natural. Like it's something I just would have done. It wasn't scripted, wasn't prepared. Just felt like the right thing in the transition. Then I ended with that still language of, where do you want to go from here? I can walk you through the process pretty much A to Z if you would like, but you tell me where you want to go. Now we're going to hit this phase.
Cool. So you got pen and pad? Something to take notes with?
Yeah.
Okay. So
again, pen and pad, something to take notes with. Because a lot of times people they start talking, then they start walking. Okay? They walk outside, they go, you know, in the car or whatever. I want to see if he's still in a buying situation before I pitch, because this is my last chance to schedule a second call if he's not in a buying situation. So again, okay, you still got your pen and pad? Something to take notes with?
Before we get into the specifics, let me tell you what this is all about. Because really, at the end of the day, the Academy, the Remote Closer Academy, is all about equipping you with not just the skills, but also making sure you get on the right offer, you have the right training, you have the right mentorship, all of that stuff to get on an offer that allows you the income to leave your 9 to 5 and make minimum $10,000 a month if you're a closer, but upwards, I mean, I told you, you know, I scaled this to $40,000 a month. Okay? So while obviously you got to put in work, it's not get rich quick, it's not going to be easy, but given you put in the work, you're going to have all of the resources that you need to be able to get there, 100%. Okay?
So certain language, high level promise, again, guys, like, I've had people send me, guys, what do you think about my high level promise and my script? Like, dude, I just made, like what you guys just heard there, I just made up on the spot, okay? Now, if I was doing, you know, hundreds of these calls, and this was what I was doing full time, or, you know, as an entrepreneur and I'm really focusing on dialing my sales process, obviously I'm going to get it to the point where like 80% of the time I'm saying the same thing, okay? But just, you want to customize it and tailor what this is all about. Now, I kind of make a big claim, big promise here, and you see how, and I do this multiple times throughout the pitch, I swing the pendulum back and I say, obviously it's not get rich quick. You're going to have to work hard. There's going to be challenges, okay? But, and then I go back into the high level promise. So that pendulum swinging, you always want to do because it increases believability.
And get there pretty quickly if you're committed to it. Make sense?
Right?
Yep.
If you're committed to it. Again, pendulum swing.
Makes
Okay?
sense.
So how we're actually going to do that is broken down into 4 things. So on your notes, on your piece of paper, write out 1 through 4.
Okay, got it.
Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first thing we're going to have to focus on.
Okay, so I said how we're to do that. Now I'm getting into the bridge, right? Is there's basically 4 key components, 4 steps. So write on your paper, write out 1 through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Direct command. Okay, that is key, guys. All right, you got your piece of paper. All right, cool. Get ready to take notes. Then no, don't do that. Write out 1 through 4. Direct command. Okay, and you'll hear. Oh, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll hear them on the other side of the line. They'll be like, okay, I'm ready. I'll even tell them and tell me when you're ready, right? Because they have to write this down, guys. They have to be focused. Also, this is key. And a lot of offers before, kind of either after I do the high level promise or right before I'll do the high level promise, I'll say, oh, and by the way, everything we're going to talk about, it does take, in terms of bandwidth, about 4 to 5 hours a week to implement. Okay. So is that something you have the bandwidth to be able to allocate right now? So I'll ask that a lot of times, especially in B2B offers, done for you services. I'll ask something like that because I want to, basically eliminate the, oh, well, this sounds great, let's wait until next month because we don't have the time objection. I want to eliminate that right now, right before the pitch. And it's just such an easy way to ask that question because you're already almost, it's like a qualifier in the midst of your pitch almost, which is great because a lot of times when you do a heavy qualifier like that, they'll try to bump up against your frame and they're like, well, tell me what this is. So this is perfect because you peppered it right into the pitch. Like, if they do bump back against it, you are about to tell them what it is. And like we're at a crescendo to where like they're finally ready to like hear what you have, which is why they're on the damn call in the first place. And then you're going to hit them with that. So the compliance towards that question is extremely high. Also notice how I asked that question, or how I would have asked that question. They allocate 4 to 5 times. Is that something you have the bandwidth to be able to do right now? That it's a different version of the, if I was to show you how to make $20,000 a month high ticket closing, is that something you'd be able to move forward with now? Do you have the time? Like, that's such a, sales resistant bullshit question. This is a much softer version of basically the same thing, okay? Now, why did I not ask that in this call? Because this dude's 20 whatever years old. He has a 9 to 5. It's biz op. If he tells me at the end that he doesn't have the time to implement, I'm going to like slap him, okay? So I don't really need, like that objection's already eliminated, essentially. But hopefully that makes sense. Like I could have still asked it here, but look at Steve Janton's, whoever that is, what's going on. But I didn't have to ask that here just because of the kind of the context here. And like if that objection came up, I would have just decimated it. But if this was like our SDA offer, a little bit more B2B professional services, you always got to ask that.
Is skill development. Okay, so on number 1, right, skill development. So here's the thing. If we're going to create a multiple 6-figure income remote closing, obviously, the first thing we have to focus on is developing your skill set as a sales closer, okay? Now, the good thing is, once you master this, you can basically go into any new thriving industry, any booming industry, because you have the most important skill in the world, which is the only skill that really is the one that's responsible for money changing hands. Because you have that, you can basically go into any economy and make at least 6 figures or multiple 6 figures, okay? So that's the good news. The first step, though, is we actually have to develop that skill into you. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to do is take all my sales experience, 3,500 plus calls, 8 figures in generated revenue, $40,000 a month in commissions, all the pain and the trial and the error that had to go along with all of that, and basically download it into you. And then once we get that all down pat, you know the sales process, you know it like the back of your hand. We're going to drill it and role play it until like really it's second nature. Make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
Cool. So this way, when you get a position, you're well prepared, you're ready to come in, you're going to crush it from day one. Cool. Cool. What questions do you have on that?
Okay. So you see how there's multiple tie downs there. I said makes sense, cool, right? There's 2 there. General rule of thumb, never go 45 seconds to a minute without asking, does that make sense? Or kind of just checking back in. That's number 1. Now, number 2, realize if you went through the pitch codex, okay? If you went through the pitch codex and I gave you those formulas. Now, did I really use one of those formulas here? Not really. Did I use the elements from the formula though, kind of the key points behind it? Yes. Okay. So I talked about, I kept a super high level and I talked about what we're going to get done, right? The outcome, the first outcome we're going to achieve. Okay. So I talked about that. I didn't even really talk about how we're going to do it. I did mention we're going to role play it. I use language like I'm going to download that into you, right? It's super high. It's talking about what I'm going to do with the person, but it's very high level. Like I'm not saying group calls or one-on-ones or whatever. It's like I'm talking about what we're going to get done together, right? The high level outcome. And then I'm tying it to the benefits of that outcome and the benefits of that benefit. So I talk about once you master this, you're going to have the financial confidence to be able to basically make money in any market, any economy, because you can go into a new, thriving, booming industry and be able to create value by solving the problem of sales for these companies. Right? And so I'm tying it to benefits and the benefit of that benefit. And I'm keeping a high level what we're going to get done. And then most importantly, it's pretty simple what I'm saying here, guys. Easy to understand. It's very clear, very simple, and it's easy to digest. Okay, so I say, does that make sense? Cool. And then I ended up, the first time on is, does that make sense? He says, yep. Awesome. What questions do you have on that? That is a key phrase, guys, especially for this first pillar. What questions do you have on that? Okay. If I would have asked any questions on that, automatically get 99% of the time they say no. Any questions on that, they say no. What questions do you have on that? A lot of times, and maybe not in this situation, we'll see. A lot of times you get a question. Okay, because what questions do you have on that implies that they actually do have a question. And it makes them think, oh, well, what questions do I have on that? And what this does, guys, is it creates dialogue throughout the pitch. It breaks it up, and it makes it easier to digest so they don't kind of get bogged down with too much information, which puts them in prefrontal cortex thinking brain and shuts them down. Okay?
I mean, it makes sense. Makes sense. No questions.
Cool. Nothing at all? Ready to move on to number 2?
Yep.
Gotcha. Number 2 is finding the...
So sometimes you will get that, like no questions, right? But again, nothing at all. Ready for number 2? Yep, permission. Now I'm going to hit number 2.
Right vehicle. Okay, so for number 2, right vehicle.
Okay, and notice I'm pitching it to him like how I want him to write it down. So I'm like, write number 2 next, or write vehicle next to number 2. Vehicle. So the pillars, I say them multiple times. So I'll say the first one's skill development. Okay, skill development. So write that next to number 1.
Now, when I say vehicle, what I really mean is finding the right offer. But I'll tell you why I call it a vehicle. Because a big part in your income of closing is not just obviously having the right skill set. Like, you have to be good, right? But at the same time, it's going to depend on the offer you're selling. So just to give you a quick context, in 2018, I was selling an SEO coaching offer making $13,000 a month, not bad. But then switched to a different coaching offer, and within 60 days, I was making $40,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Now, did I get 4 times better? No. I was just driving a faster vehicle. I was driving a faster car, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. That's probably like the biggest thing for me right now, because like at Pinterest, like you pretty much get the same bonus if you're at like 300% to goal or 400% to goal.
Yep. So imagine if we just package your already existing sales expertise, obviously adjusted it for some nuances to the high ticket closing market, put you on a better offer, and instead of making 4K a month, you're making 10.
Yeah.
Right. That's what this is all about. So really what we're going to be doing is finding out the offer that's perfect for your personal goals, your experience, your current level of skill, also what you're interested in. Obviously, a lot of the best industries are going to be in coaching, consulting, agency, other high ticket services, just because they're booming. Both those businesses are growing, and because they're growing, they need closers big time. The thing to watch out for, though, is while there is massive demand, I mean massive demand, the problem is a lot of these opportunities aren't created equal. Okay, so the key is just knowing what you're looking for and really having us kind of guide you on what to avoid. Okay, because we want to avoid people who don't have a validated offer, don't have a good program, don't have good case studies, they don't have good lead flow. They want you to be, sales golden retriever, build their sales process from scratch, and basically build their business for them. We want to avoid all of that stuff, especially because if we don't see it from the start and we end up on the wrong offer, what happens is you spend months of your time in the wrong company, and then you come out like 2-3 months later, doesn't work out, you didn't make any money, nothing to show for it, just wasted a bunch of time. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're going to teach you how to find, evaluate, and get hired for good offers out there, which, just to give you an idea, it is a little bit tough because probably about 1 out of every 10 offers is even good.
Gotcha.
But we'll help you do it. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, a little bit long there, but so I gave some context on skill set, driving the right vehicle, gave them a story of why it's important. And then obviously the benefits of it. Like my story basically exemplified that I quadrupled my income almost. Basically, yeah. Tripled, quadrupled, whatever. Through just selling a different offer. I mean, I was already really, really good. Don't get me wrong, but it's a true story. Like, I went from, being the top closer on this one company, making about 150 grand a year, and then boom, 300-400 just because I was selling a better offer. And that, it's a great lesson for all the closers. But, and then I'm linking those benefits together. And then at the very end here, I started linking the costs together. Because what we don't want to happen is you get on the wrong offer, you get strung along for 2 or 3 months, you don't make any money, and then you end up like parting ways, and you're right back where you started, just wasted time, right? Cost, I'm anchoring cost. So listen back to how I did it, go through the recording. You'll see I'm obviously here I'm also talking about what we're going to get done, which is kind of like the feature, right? So I'm talking about high-level outcome, what we're going to get done, benefits associated with that, linking the benefits. So I'm talking benefit, that benefit, linking the cost. If we don't have, the reason why it's important is if we don't have it, we're going to get this cost, here's the consequence of that cost, and the consequence of that consequence. Linking the cost together, the negatives. I'm also linking the benefits. And so it just builds this really good argument of like why this is so important and why we're doing this, etc. Okay? So I will say this, guys, and you're going to see this in the pitch. These first 2, I usually explain a little bit more. Because these first two here really act as, and your entire pitch should act as this, but the first two are really justifying their failures and the key differences of what you're doing. Remember, the pitch should be the simultaneous explanation of why this is going to be different and why everything they tried in the past has failed. Okay? So these first two really justify those past failures, kind of throw rocks at their enemies, tell them why this is going to be different, why this is going to be work. It's revealing the mechanisms. It's pulling out the root causes of why they really failed in the past, why this is going to be different, all that stuff, right? It's kind of playing off all of those things you might hear in marketing sometimes. So these later two pillars, 3 and 4, are going to be pretty light and just focused on future pacing. Because a lot of these people, the way your offer should be set up, the first two, if they get those results, it should be fine. Then 3 and 4 are just icing on the cake. So we want to keep those a little bit lighter because these have been a little bit dense, okay?
Cool. And obviously, you'll have our entire client Rolodex. We have almost 170 clients right now.
Wow.
That you'll be able to fall back on and interview with any of our clients. Obviously, you have to be good, okay? But you work hard, you put in the work.
Pendulum swing.
And you'll have that to fall back on too. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's sweet. Makes sense.
Cool. Once you have the skill developed, do you feel like that's going to be able to help you find the right opportunity?
For sure.
So you see how what I did right there is I said, thoughts on that? He said, for sure. And like I realize I'm aware enough to know that I just essentially went a long ass time, okay, talking. And again, the first two pillars I'm going to go a little bit longer. So that one I did drag out a little bit, and now I'm like, okay, I don't want it to become a one-sided landslide, right? I want to always make it sure it's dialogue. So I said, based on what we talked about earlier, do you feel like in terms of finding a position, that's a part of the process that's going to help you? And he says, yeah, for sure, right? So I'm creating a little bit of dialogue and buy-in to the pitch to make sure he's totally bought in on this thing, okay? That there's certainty that this is the right thing, now's the right time.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get it. I made like one post on Facebook like a few weeks ago if anybody knew anybody that was like hiring for sales. And I got like 9 people that were like, oh, you can come do sales for me. But then like I asked them like what their current sales volume was like, and it was like non-existent.
No, they probably didn't even know how to answer the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So ready to go on number 3?
Cool. So you see how they created that dialogue that just breaks it up, makes it easier to digest. And I say, okay, so you're ready to move on to number 3, right? Permission. So don't anvil drop the pitch, guys. That's what everybody else does. You want to create this a little bit of dialogue, and don't be afraid that the prospect's going to take control, dude. Like a lot of people, I once coached this team, and the owner was like backseat coaching as I was coaching the team, and he was like, well, what if you create this dialogue and they just say, well, dude, just tell me the price. And it's like if you're having an intellectual discussion and you're being a leader and you're providing amazing level of insight, nobody's going to be a dick and just say, well, just tell me the price. Like you can see in this call, he's picking up what I'm putting down. Like I'm educating him as I'm pitching him here. So he's not going to bump against this frame. Plus, my energy is such that I'm like very much the clear leader. I'm very much the authority, and I'm providing value. So he's not going to bump up against the frame here. But part of my ability to do that is because I'm creating this dialogue and breaking it up, making it easy to digest, and it's really instilling clarity and certainty into the sales process here, into the pitch.
Yep.
Next to number 3, right? Ramp up and calibration. Ramp up, calibration. Okay? So once you get on a good offer, the biggest thing, man, is getting from 0 to KPI as fast as possible. Okay, 0 to KPI as fast as possible. Not only so you can start making money as fast as possible, but at the same time, so the owner knows he's got a gem, he's got a really good closer, and he's going to want to keep you and keep beating you leads. Okay, so all of this is about teaching you like the common pitfalls to watch out for when you're starting a new position, how to get into KPI in 2 to 3 weeks, and then actually once you're in KPI, bumping your closing ratio to 30, 40% or more. Okay, obviously, if you're able to do that, you'll keep any sales position that you have, but at the same time, it's going to give you the foundation to not just make 6 figures in commissions, but if you work hard, again, if you put in the work, really have everything you need to make multiple six figure a month commissions or more. So 20, 30, upwards of $40,000 a month. Does it make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Anything on that, or ready for number 4?
Let's go to 4.
So usually, see that one was way shorter, and then I say anything on that already number 4. So I'm not gonna like try to. A lot of times those first 2, I do try to create a good little bit of dialogue around. Then 3 or 4 a little bit shorter, and I just kind of roll from 3 right into 4 usually. Just because it is kind of redundant if every time you're like, so what questions do you have on that? It's just like, come on, dude. So I do that. I'll usually ask, what questions do you have on that? And then the second one, I'll ask thoughts, and I'll try to create a little bit of dialogue around the second one. Then 3, I roll right into 4. After 4, we do a temp check.
4 is ascension. So next to number 4, write ascension. Okay. So once you have an offer, you're dialed in on that offer. You're making money. At a certain point, a lot of times, it could be 6 months, could be a year, it could be 2 years. You're gonna get to a point where you feel maxed out on that offer. Okay, and maybe that's from a fulfillment standpoint.
See how I'm future pacing here? You're gonna get to a point where might be a 6 months, a year. You're gonna feel this way, right? I mean, like he doesn't even need this right now, right? All I'm doing right now is just future pacing.
An income standpoint, impact standpoint, you maybe you're not challenged anymore, whatever. It could be a million different things. But at a certain point, what you're gonna want to do, just to use the previous example about the vehicle, you're gonna want to drive a faster car. Okay, you're gonna want an offer that challenges you more, pays you more, allows you to grow, pushes you, etc. So this is where it's key to have my Rolodex of business owners who actually need salespeople at your disposal, because as you want to move up and make more and more and take on more responsibility, get challenged more, you'll be able to have our distribution to be able to do that pretty much almost instantly. Again, given you've earned it and given that you're good.
So you got pendulum swing. Given that you've earned it, given that you're good.
Right? And then on the flip side of this, maybe you end up getting on an offer, and let's say, I've known people where the business owner just shuts it down, right? Lead flow dries up, they get burned out, whatever, the offer ends. Okay? So instead of being pretty much, hung out to dry, you'll always have our offer or our Rolodex of clients as a safety net to fall back on.
Safety net. So appealing to a sense of security
as well. So that'll provide you with a little bit of sense of security that you're not going to get with most salespeople.
I mean, I literally just said it.
If that makes sense.
Makes sense. Yep.
Cool. Questions?
Nope.
How do you feel? How do you feel in terms of the process, in terms of the
Temp check.
those 4 things specifically?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I guess like my only like worry, hesitation is just like in the back of my head. It's like, how is this gonna, like? Is this really going to be different than like everything else that I've tried?
Tell me.
So this is a role play, right? Granted, that little objection here I'm getting, which you want to get that objection now, not when you get the price, right? That little objection, it actually would have been mitigated by like really getting this down. This whole pre-pitch thing. So you see how it's funny, these role plays. A lot of times, like it's because of consistency bias. They do play out like actual calls to where like he wouldn't, he would feel stupid saying this if like we had this whole discussion up here and he was like totally sold and telling himself why this opportunity is what he wanted to do.
More.
I mean, like it sounds good and like sales makes sense to me. Maybe it's just because like I'm not super familiar with like the online high ticket world, But I just want to make sure that like this is actually going to be something that's like worth me investing my time into and different. And the reason I say that is like a lot of like local, like my dad and like people like that, like they like he's like obviously he's old, but like he's like very weary of like the online world. And I'm just like I was raised in like such a traditional household, Plus like I saw like Amazon and e-commerce not work out, so I think there's probably a little bit of part of me that's like is anything ever like really going to change? Like is this plausible? I don't know. That's just like the only like worry I would say I have.
Okay. Can I give you some feedback?
Yeah, please.
Are you sure? Just because, I mean, I can give you some feedback that's going to help you break through some of your limiting beliefs right now, but, I don't want you to get triggered and curse me out and hang up the phone.
Okay, so like some fake laughs there. But, so can I give you some feedback? Are you sure? And then I basically, say, look, I'm going to tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear, right? And I kind of make it a little bit funny, but I'm making him get buy-in to the fact that I'm about to drop the hammer.
I'll hang up the phone.
Okay, cool. Look, so from what I understood, you basically
I think in the course this is called the truth hammer, is what I named it.
said the biggest kind of apprehension you have about doing something new, especially with something closing, is that you tried some stuff before and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yep.
Clarified.
So look, that makes sense, and I get that. At the same time,
Acknowledge, understand.
you really have to decide who you want to show up as and who you want to be. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be the type of person who takes a couple
Appeal to identity.
shots and because you missed a basket a few times, you're going to quit, then what chance of success do you feel like you have?
Yeah, obviously 0.
Right. But at the same time, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, some of the best basketball players in the world, you know what they do when they're in a shooting slump and they can't make anything?
Keep shooting.
Keep shooting. Right. So I'm not saying
Analogy.
blindly throw your money at anybody who says you could make $10K a month.
Pendulum swing.
But just be honest with me. If you do this, are you 100% going to put in the work?
100%.
Buy-in.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And when you run into a bottleneck and you're running into a challenge, which is going to happen, there's no guarantees in business except for the guarantee that there's going to be problems, there's going to be challenges. But when you get to that point, are you going to, bury your head in the sand and like disappear, or are you going to raise your hand for help?
Definitely get help for sure.
Yeah. So if you're going to do those two things, put in the work, raise your hand for help, then why isn't this going to work for you?
Yeah, I guess really like theoretically there isn't a reason it shouldn't.
Yeah, you just have apprehension because you have a negative association to making decisions that didn't work out for you in the past, and you're attaching it to this decision.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you let those past failures dictate your future decisions and your future outcomes, you're probably only going to get, more of the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree.
So that being said, like scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like
So retemp check. I mean, I could have let it off. I could have ended that a little bit better. I could have said that. That being said, the real question is, who do you want to be? Okay, because if you let your prior circumstances dictate your decisions of where you want to take this in the future, and you let your past failures keep you from making decisions you really need to do to get to where you really want to go, then where do you think you're going to go? Or you could be the person who, instead of making decisions out of their past failures and out of apprehension and out of fear, you make it out of faith, okay? You make it out of vision. So which one of those two types of people do you want to be? That wasn't really that great now that I said that out loud, but I think you guys get what I'm saying here. I could have kind of left it off with a good either or question. The real question is either or, and then went back to where I just went with the temp check here.
I hate this guy. I want to get the hell
So I'm going to go scale. Remember, the first temp check is how do you feel? The second temp check is scale of 1 to 10.
off the phone. And 10 being, okay, like, this sounds like exactly what I need.
See how I did 1 to 10 and then also weighted the scales. So 1 being, I hate this guy, I want to get out the phone. 10 being, okay, this sounds like exactly what I need. Where do you feel like I fall exactly?
Where do you feel like you fall exactly?
I would say like a 9.5.
Gotcha. Cool. There's really no such thing as a 10 out of 10 or being 100% certain about anything in life. So probably a 9.5 is as close as you're going to get. So
that was Ninja. I don't know if you guys heard that part. So he says 9.5. I say, well, look, there's nothing 100% certain in life, period. I mean, it's not even 100% certain that we're going to wake up the next day. So it's good to hear you're a 9.5 because that's about as close to 100% certain as you're ever going to be, right? So you see how, like, I kind of just seeded right there that, like, it's that basically is a 10 out of 10, okay? So we just went through again, guys. We went through temp check. So we're in committing phase right now. Temp check is where we're at right now. I temp checked, got an objection, handled the objection, and look, it was all right. Like, I think that could have been a little bit better. I think there was good parts and bad parts to that objection handle. Truth be told, I wasn't expecting it. And then I temp checked again, and then got the 9.5. We're going to move on to the investment.
being said, no questions. All makes sense. 9.5 out of 10. What's next? Where do you want to go from here?
Epic phrase, by the way. So after I get the temp check and there's no questions, I say, great. So feel really good. 9.5 out of 10. So it feels amazing. No questions. What's next? Where do you want to go from here? Right? Gangster way to transition into the investment. And if you do this, you can do this on all levels of sophistication too. And the guys who have some sales savvy, they're gonna be like, dude, that was good. Like they'll love that. And then it's also really, really great to just get people to basically ask for the investment. If they don't say anything, if they say, okay, well, you tell me, you say, well, do you want to go over investment? And they say, yeah, sure. And then you just drop the investment.
And like, how does it work? Like, obviously you guys have to get paid at some point. Like, is it like a monthly thing? Like, a pay up front? Do we pay once we get placed? Like, what does that look like?
Yep. The investment.
So I did mess this up, guys. I should have went next steps here. I should have said, gotcha. So I handle all of the enrollment. You'll process the investment with me. Then from there, we're going to send you some homework to complete, okay? Now, once you get through that homework, after that, we're going to send you back basically what we call your implementation pathway, okay? That's going to be the first things you're going to do, in the order you're going to do them, when we're going to meet, how we're going to meet, all of that stuff. Make sense? Cool. And then the investment is blank, right? So always outline kind of the onboarding next steps before investment here.
Investment is $5,800.
Okay, and then that's for obviously everything we talked about. Like, is it like a program? What does that look like?
Yep. So you'll have basically our entire curriculum, and then you'll have 2 opportunities a week to hop on with me and my team and role play. Okay, that's where we're going to take the materials that you're going to learn in the curriculum, which is basically everything I've learned throughout my sales career. Take that onto a call, role play with me, role play with other people in the program, and drill it so we can really cement it in. Okay, and then basically. So
you notice how I didn't call them 2 group calls a week. I told them 2 opportunities a week, and then I linked it immediately to benefits because I hate saying group coaching.
You're going to be learning how to find offers, filter through offers, reach out to offers, get hired, get ramped up, and then once you're ramped, calibrate to that point where you can close 30 to 40% or more. And if you don't get on an offer within 90 days, we work with you until you do.
Cool. All right.
So you asked how it worked, which is like the support, and you can see how I basically just restated a lot of benefits there. I don't like to get into the weeds. Now I will, if it keeps going, I'm not going to lie and dodge the question, but we just want to be tactful.
So if I go through it and I do everything, you're guaranteeing I'll at least get a job opportunity.
We'll work with you until you do.
Okay, gotcha. And like if I so there's not like if I don't get a job in 90 days I get a refund. It's just like you'll work with me until we do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you go through this in 90 days and like you don't have, you're not rich in 90 days, then you're probably not the person that we're looking for. But obviously, if you're willing to, if things don't work out for you as fast as you want to within 90 days, but you're willing to keep putting in the work and sticking with it, we're gonna put in the work with you too.
Okay, cool.
Good pendulum swing there.
What else? What are the questions?
I think that's all the questions I have. Like, is it like you need a yes like right now?
Well, how do you feel?
Ninja. Okay, so I don't really want to answer that question, right? Do you need a yes right now? Well, how do you feel, right? So I'm going to temp check back on the process, right? So remember, the first thing we want to do is get him certain. So now we're in objections, basically. We want to get him certain that this is the right thing. Now is the right time, right? So I want to get them make sure that he's even though he told me he's a 9.5 out of 10, I'm going to go back and re-temp check. Gotcha. Well, how do you feel? Like in terms of the process, do you feel like this is what you need to be able to get to $20,000 a month in sales income, right? You're going to get the buy-in on that and tie that down.
I feel really good. I have like a little. I mean, like the 5,800 is reasonable. I think it's okay. I would say like the only thing is like that's obviously like both like my wife and I's money, so I'd want to like get the go ahead from her, and then once I had that, like I'd be ready to go.
Gotcha. Money and everything aside, how do you feel about the process? Like 100%, you feel like this is what you want to do?
Yeah, definitely. It's like sinking in for sure.
Gotcha. So money aside, talking to your wife aside, you're 100% in.
Yeah.
So there's two objections basically. Kind of money and spouse partner. Really, it's mainly spouse partner is the main one here. But you see, I said, okay, well, those aside, you feel like this is really what you want to do, and he said, yeah. And then I said, okay, so that aside, you're 100% in. I used a little bit more flowery language in that. The first one was a little bit more, gotcha, so you feel like this is really what you want to do. That all aside, like you feel like this is what you need to get to where you want to go. He's like, yep, gotcha. So money and that aside, you're 100% in. Double tie out. And I love the 100% in because it's an absolute statement to where if there's any ounce of uncertainty, we got to like pry that out and then handle it. So I'm trying to make sure I don't like. He's totally certain that this is the right thing, now's the right time, before we handle either one of these.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. So I know, you said you have it, but part of the monetary thing was talking to your wife. A lot of our clients do it up front.
Okay. So I know I've been pausing it a lot in this last stretch here. But what you're going to see me do here is handle the financial objection. Now, it's not the end of the world that I'm doing this. But it's actually an error, technically. I really should handle the spouse objection. I should say, gotcha. What do you think your spouse is going to think of this? Gotcha. What do you think she's going to hear when she sees the price? Do you feel like she's going to be supportive? How do you think that conversation is going to go? Gotcha. Well, let's pretend you had that conversation already. She told you, look, 100%, whatever you want to do, Brian, I'm 100% supportive with whatever decision you want to go with this. Let's say she had already told you that, okay? If that's the case, we'll be working together right now. And I'm going to also kind of pry out, is this a permission thing versus a you just letting her know? And then I may go for the deposit and also end with if you've been through the spouse and partner training for objections, you'll know what I'm saying here. But the two ways you can approach your spouse, right? There's two ways you can do it. You can, and I'm not going to go into that whole role play right now, but I'm going to pry all that out. That's what I would have done in this situation, and then probably deposit closed, okay? But to be honest, guys, when I was doing this role play, I got a little bit lazy at the end here, and I just really wanted to just get the close on the call. So I kind of just ignored it, and I was like, I'm going to close them here with payment plans, which, by the way, to be honest, that will work sometimes, and it's not the end of the world. So I made a technical error, but it's not a huge one. And you'll see how this ends up playing out. But it's a great, I'm glad I kind of did it in hindsight because it lets you see how to handle a financial objection if it would have come up.
Certain clients, depending on their financial situation, we break it up.
Uh-huh.
So is that something you want to explore, if we can make that easier for you?
Yeah, for sure. That'd make it easier.
Cool. Well, it's all customized. So it just kind of depends on what you need. So are you open to just having an honest conversation about your finances, getting everything on the table so we can just see kind of like if there's a pathway for us to be able to do this now, at the very least, you can have kind of a game plan of what you need to work towards in the future?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So how much income, with Pinterest, everything net, do you have coming in the next 30 days? Like after you pay your expenses, bills, everything, how much you can have left over net cash flow 30 days?
So you can see what I'm doing here. All right. In financial objections, which is, I think, the third video in the objections week at least, it breaks down every little step I did there. I got permission, and now I'm going to go into cash on hand credit, all that stuff. So there's a whole sequence for that. I lay it out step by step by step. You could also just listen back to this call. I mean, just repeat what I say, but I'm getting permission. I'm doing it in a very trust-based way and just leading them into this. Okay. So
like $1,500, $1,000 to $1,500.
Okay. And then what's your cash on hand right now?
About $4,000.
Okay. Cool. Credit?
Pretty low. I have a credit card, but
see how I'm asking for all of this with absolute certainty?
it only has like $1,000 limit, and then I just like pay it off every month.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's pretty low because my wife is going to school right now, and so
Yeah. So, and you really want to do this, right?
yeah, definitely.
Cool. Because I don't think the best thing for you is like to delay because you're trying to save up the $5,800 in total, and end up doing nothing.
Yeah.
I also think the best thing for you is to hop in if it's gonna put you on the street and you can't buy food. So look, what I'd be willing to do for you is let you in for half, so $2,900. That way you can come in, train up, start working on getting on an offer, and then that way, worst case, we can take care of the rest 30 days down the road. Best case, you're already on an offer, you've commissioned a few things, or kicked a few deals, and you can almost ROI. So if that's something I'm willing to do for you, letting you in for $2,900 now, is that something you can move forward with right now?
I still think I'd have to talk to my wife.
Right, because I didn't handle the freaking first objection, right? Now, granted, if the wife was a kind of a smokescreen, that is a good, what I just did there, closing with the payment plans and kind of lowering the risk threshold or action threshold, whatever. Just making it an easier yes and looping in that way. Sometimes that'll actually close them. They'll just be like, fuck it, right? Because it's only $2,900. If it leaves the bank account, he's like, whatever. So technically, this is a route you could have gone. It is fine, but you could see because I didn't handle the core objection of spouse partner, it's coming back up. So now I'm going to have to handle this one.
Gotcha. Cool. Let's just pretend you already talked to her, and she was like, look, Brian, like whatever you want to do, go for it. Like if you feel like this is the best route for the family, for your income, for all of that stuff, go ahead, move forward with it. Like I trust you with whatever you do. So if that was the case, and you guys had already had that discussion, would we be moving forward right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I'm like 99% confident.
99% confident. See, that's key. That means I hear that we're getting a deposit.
So be game for it.
Unless it was a real feminine, flowy type of deal, but like this is a very young, masculine, 99% confident. We're going for the deposit now.
We've just talked a lot about making sure that bigger financial decisions are made by both of us, and I don't feel comfortable just dropping $2,900 behind her back because I'd be bothered if she did that. So
Right. So you're not asking necessarily for permission. You're just letting her know.
Yeah.
Boom.
Essentially.
Cool. Well, look,
anytime we're letting her know, 99% deposit, dude. Deposit.
Obviously don't want you to get a divorce over this. So, look, you feel like she's 99% all good for it. You're 100% in.
Tie down again. Right? I always tie down right before I go for the close.
Let's just do a $1,000 deposit.
Okay.
100% refundable. Talk to your wife. We'll set up a call tomorrow. And then, if you talk with her, everything's still good and you still feel really good, then we can go ahead and talk about what it's like to get started. Or, if, she's throwing your clothes out in the yard and telling you to hit the street, then obviously we'll send that back to you. Does that
notice the deposit closing language there?
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. What's your billing address?
Boom. Assumed close, man. A lot of people don't like that, but what's your billing address has made me millions. So I think it's fine, especially is he really gonna he already just said 9 times. I did so many freaking tie downs here that he's in. We know he's in. So cool. What's your billing address? Just assume close, man. It's smooth.
1098 West Dutch Lane.
Gotcha. So taking credit card information, and then let's just say I took the credit card information up already. Cool. Got that through. And then I got my calendar open now.
Okay, so notice how I booked the follow-up call here too.
Does 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. Central Time tomorrow work for you to recoup?
Alternate time close.
Yeah, 4's great.
Gotcha. Cool. And I have your email here. I sent you the invite. Can you accept that really quick?
Yep, done.
Awesome.
Accept the invite.
Then I have one more thing that I think you'll like just in terms of some homework.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably take you 5 minutes to go through, but it'll give you a little bit more of a better idea of what remote closing is actually like, potential of it, opportunity out there. Will you go through that? You can even show your wife that if you want to, but will you go through that before tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll go through it with her tonight.
Cool. All right, man.
Homework now I'm getting them doing stuff for me. Homework.
Anything else before we hop off?
No, dude, I'm good.
All right, brother. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.
All right, guys, that is it. I think I was probably too hard on myself at the beginning. I don't think that was that bad. We did cover the errors. That was goals for syntax is the main thing. We also hit, both spouse objection, financial objection, pitch codex, kind of talked about stealing them on the method. Hopefully this was a great training for you guys. You guys enjoyed it. It was valuable.